Hello everyone. In this 40k thoughts video, we'll be giving my quick thoughts and general experiences with the precision keyword and some units that I've had the pleasure of using and experimenting with and also dealing with. As a disclaimer, once again, don't have too much experience of running around with units with precision. Tend not to try it out too much, but without further ado, we'll get into the video. With my overall thoughts on precision, I think that on paper, it can be a really useful keyword for sniping out characters, right? Whether that's in shooting or in melee. Now, in practice, at least based off of my experience, it has not done much for me. There have been times where I've managed to get wounds into a character that's really deep into a unit that they're attached to. Sorry, excuse me. But it more often than not doesn't accomplish the goals that I have them out there for, like jumping into the thick of it and really trying to snipe out that character. Now, I also am very well aware that this is something that can be very faction dependent and unit dependent. As an example, eliminators from Space Marines have the ability to precision out units, but the volume of shots that they make just isn't a lot. Compare them to Necron Death Marks, where you can run a unit of 5 or a unit of 10 of them, and just by the sheer number of volume of attacks, the Death Marks have the advantage on having potentially having more bodies, therefore having more attacks, and those can also precision out characters. Now, granted, they also still have line of sight on the character, which then leads me to my next point. Precision seems to be better on melee units or melee profiles more than it is useful on shooting profiles. Now, I think that this is my opinion on this, because of line of sight. Needing line of sight on a character isn't necessarily a problem, but if your opponent knows, you have death marks or eliminators or other ranged shooting units that have the ability to precision things out, they are probably going to move that unit in a way where the character stays out of line of sight, and therefore you can't precision them out. Now, I do think that that's less of an issue for melee units like a Judiciar or an Emperor's Champion, as examples, or even like a unit of Reavers with their combat knives. But even still, needing line of sight is a factor for melee units, because if that unit of Reavers is jumping into a enemy unit of Infractors, and those Infractors are led by a Lord Exultant, if you're having them in there to melee to fight that unit, and you want to snipe out that Lord Exultant, well, you have to have line of sight on that Lord Exultant. If none of the models in that unit can see the Lord Exultant, then they can't precision him out. And I think that's kind of that's a little bit of a whack experience. Even if it does make sense in the shooting department, I think when units are engaged, that shouldn't be a consideration. That leads me into my hot take, I guess you could say. I don't know how much of a hot take it is. I don't know how I don't know what the community sentiment is around this, but I do think that units that are in engagement should not need line of sight in order for precision to be something that can go into effect. Now, when I say this, I am directly referring to melee, not shooting. So if, as an example, if Reavers are in engagement with an enemy unit of Infractors with a character attached to them not needing line of sight only applies to their combat knives, not their special issue bolt pistols. Right? Even though, but they're in engagement. Yes, they're in engagement. I think that precision should only not require line of sight when meleeing, not in shooting. Moving on to my experiences with using precision keyword units or units with the precision keyword. Currently, in my Black Templars list, I am using a Judiciar and a Emperor's Champion in my Black Templars army. My Emperor's Champion's leading a unit of 10 Assault Intercessors. They're running up the mid board, and the Justiciar is leading a unit of 5 Sword Brethren, not in a transport. They are foot slogging it up, and so far in my testing and the white paper, the white room testing, and then also throwing some of my stuff against my stuff on Tabletop Simulator, it seems to be working out. In the past, for Black Templars, I've experimented with using Reavers, scouting them up the board and deep striking them in. Many months ago, when I was learning Space Marines, I did try to use Eliminators in the past. I ultimately found that Reavers just didn't do they didn't really do what I was looking for them to do in a manner that I was happy with. So I ultimately swapped them out for something that just didn't have precision, but could still deep strike or zoom up the board because of high movements. So I replaced them with Jump Pack Assault Intercessors. And then Eliminators, I found that the volume of attacks that they can make to try to snipe out characters just wasn't very good. And granted, in their case, it may have not been a good experience with trying to test the Eliminators because I was playing against Necrons. So if I hadn't killed any of the characters I was trying to precision out, if I had line of sight on them, regeneration protocol would have kicked in and they would have just healed. In my Chaos Space Marine army, though I currently don't use Master of Executions, I did for a time have 2 of them leading units of Chosen. I believe, if I remember correctly, I had them attached to a Chosen, and if not, I had them attached to Legionnaires. Overall, they were fine. 1 extra body to really be there, help them fight. If they were attached to Legionnaires, they could reroll wound rolls if they were of 1, and then if they were on an objective, which they tended to be on objectives when they would get into fights, they would just full reroll the wounds. And that's of course really helpful for the Master of Executions, even though his ability becomes becomes redundant once you're attacking something that is below starting strength. In terms of fighting or dealing with units with precision, in the games I've played against Tyranids, against my friend Jack, he usually always has at least 1 Lictor that always infiltrates up the board and tries to pull some shenanigans with sniping out a character early on. Historically, like I said in my Infiltrators video, it doesn't go very well. That Lictor has more often than not maybe scratched like 1 or 2 wounds off of a character and then just proceeds to die. It usually doesn't ever kill something. It usually in how the games have gone, nothing actually comes of that Lictor going in like that besides it dying. And to that point, I don't recall if my friend has ever used a Death Leaper. I know those also have precision, and he has talked about using one in his lists, but that is as far as I can recall for the Tyranids. Against the Emperor's Children, in a more recent game where I was playing Black Templars against my friend Brody, who was playing Emperor's Children, he was using 2 units of 10 Infractors. Both of those units were being led by a Lord Exultant. I know Infractors, with their melee weapons, they all have precision, and then with a Lord Exultant, they all have lethal hits. Very scary melee unit that you don't want to mess with unless you can either wipe it with like a lot of shooting or really strong melee of your own. And then, of course, in that game, he also had Lucius the Eternal. But unfortunately for him, in that match, Lucius proceeded to do a whole lot of nothing. He died. He died on my friend's turn 2. Since he was going second, I was going first. Really unfortunate situation that with Lucius. He didn't even manage to snipe out a character. He didn't make contact with my Emperor's Champion. That would have been really bad because the Emperor's Champion probably would have died. And then against the Necrons, once again against my friend Brody, the one and only time he's ever used any units of precision was 1 unit of 10 death marks, and they killed my Emperor's Champion in a match before some time ago, and they also managed to snipe out some, I believe, a Castellan in one of my Sword Brother units. that I had a Castellan and Marshall attached to, and the Castellan happened to have been the character that they had line of sight on. So overall, in terms of dealing with precision, it's never been like a, oh, this is scary. It's always like a, this is something to consider. Some cases it's really scary. In other cases it's like, oh, it's not as threatening or as scary as you'd think it'd be. And I think that entirely boils down to volume of attacks. But once again, guys, I want to thank you all for watching and listening to my thoughts and experiences and hot takes with the precision keyword. You know, what kind of experiences have you had with units that use precision, whether that be, you're running around with a Judiciar with Emperor's or Blade Guard veterans, or Sword Brethren, or Inner Circle companions, or a lone character or a lone unit like a Lictor. You know, what good or bad experiences? Feel free to let me know. As always, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. And once again, liking the video, sharing it, subscribing, all that does go a long way to show me interest and to support me. You know, I very much do appreciate that. If you don't like the video, or you hate the way I sound, or you think some of my takes or opinions on things are wrong, that's perfectly fine, perfectly valid. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. But with that, guys, hope you're having a great time wherever you may find yourself, whether you're at home or you're at work or at school. Hope you're having a good time. And if things aren't going well, I hope they can turn around and get better. But until the next time, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace.